DC here. Hi guys and gals. Well, I'm walking along. I actually got my phone out, and I hope that it's rather windy, so I hope it'll be okay, because I'm talking into whichever side actually there's the microphone, but we'll see. Anyway, I'll do my best. I didn't pull out the camera, and we'll see. Anyway, so today is already Thursday, and I thought I'd chat about something that I read. Where did I read it? I think it was in Psychology Today. But I just thought I'd take more or less just the title, and never mind about what was in the article, because I found the title was interesting. It was like about curiosity. If you should still be curious, and relative to making assumptions. Is it better to be curious and just make an assumption? And I found that was kind of interesting, because I was thinking, like, is it something that's changed over? I'm thinking, like, when I was younger, when we were kids and we would be in situations, if you lived in a village in Canada somewhere, and you would see something really different, you'd be curious. You wouldn't automatically make an assumption, but maybe you would. If you took what was on television, let's say if it was a race thing, you might automatically make an assumption from what television was. But then if you met somebody and you had the chance to actually ask a question, you more often than not would get an answer, and that was it. Especially as kids. Well, then you knew the way it was. When we were kids, we had, in the village where I lived, there was a lot of English-speaking people, a lot of French-speaking people, and there were a lot of assumptions. Like some are lazy, some are rich. There's a lot of favoritism. Some things are true, some things weren't. When we lived in Switzerland the first few years, there was a lot of assumptions about foreigners, but it depended where the foreigners came from, and so on. When we were in the village where we lived in the Swiss-German part of Switzerland, many of the people, I remember, we had a young lady who was visiting somebody at the church, and they came and ate at our place. And I think she was from Cameroon, so she was African, had very, very, tough, wiry hair. And we were taking a walk after the lunchtime in the village, and there was an elderly lady that was walking, and she came up to us, and without any malice whatsoever, she was honestly curious. I had the impression that she had rarely in her life, and that's actually possible, rarely in her life seen close up a person from Africa. So she came up to us, and she chatted a little bit. She was nice. She was, talking. We were talking about flowers or whatever, nothing special. And then she looked at the lady and she said, "Can I touch your hair?" And she was very curious. She said, "I've often, from what I've seen, I've wondered, how does it feel? I have no idea." And it was kind of amusing, because in this case, the African lady was definitely more cosmopolitan than the elderly Swiss lady that we had. But she graciously let her do that, and I asked her after, I said, how did you take it? Is it something that's happened a lot? And she said, no, not really. But then many, many, many years later, when I was myself in Africa, so that's like 3 years ago now, children would come to me and ask if they could touch my skin, because it was white. and they were wondering if it was different. They had heard people say that, you know, us whiteys, they had another word, they were speaking French, it wasn't a very nice word either. But, so you see there's maybe N words, but there's also the equivalent of W words over there. But they had heard that our skin was a lot softer. Actually, I think it is, because when Mrs. DC was doing nursing, there were Africans with them, and they would, you know, practice together giving injections. And the African people were telling, well, my wife and so on, you know, you've got to realize that there's more resistance in the skin. The skin is tighter or whatever, I don't know, but I mean, not exactly. I mean, a needle's a needle, but there was slightly more resistance. Anyway, I'm not getting into that. But, you know, curiosity versus assumptions. Kind of interesting. And today, in today's world, I kind of feel that, you know, you got to be very careful if you're curious how you ask the question. Because right off, people get offended, and they make assumptions about our curiosity at times. There was something that happened in this week. How many minutes am I talking? 6, okay. There was something happened in the paper in town this week. I think it was sometimes towards the end or beginning of last week. It doesn't really matter. It was an elderly man, from what we gathered. He wrote, you know, just there's a section like for people that put their letters about topics or something. And we've had a lot of cold weather right now. And the man said, oh, I'm so looking forward to spring. I'm sick of COVID. I'm so looking forward to spring, to be able to look at the young girls walking in their spring dresses or something like that. And I mean, you could tell it was an elderly man that was using assumptions. I mean, he was saying things that today, in today's world, made him a dirty old man. And there was a riot. Yeah, there's a bunch of, I won't even say who, but certain people, they vandalize the cars at the newspaper company. They wrote things on the signs, you know, like basically saying, you know, that they were promoting rape and stuff like that. So, you know, assumptions. Go on and say that there was the curiosity thing here. I think the old guy was, you know, just probably talking in a way, you know, like some elderly man was, but he was completely taken out of context. At least I think it was. But anyway, I think you get what I'm coming at. Is that sometimes, you know, you're not allowed anymore to even say, I was almost going to say, maybe antiquated things. You have to be careful now. You can't just assumption. You can't just assume that something is right because it was before, because you're going to put a whole bunch of people out of joint. Anyway, tell me about it. Have you had any situations like that? You know, we can chat about it eventually. Maybe even make a video or something. So I'll be DC signing off. Take care, everybody. And it's cold out here. Yeah, cold. Bye-bye.